7 years of marriage and my wife never once let me touch her, so I decided to divorce. But when I found out she was still secretly seeing her ex, I realized I was just a shadow in this marriage from beginning to end. My name is Ethan Carter, 35 years old, a senior manager at a major financial company in Manhattan. I live with my wife, Emily Carter, in a luxurious apartment in the Upper West Side, New York City. We've been married for 7 years, and in all those 7 years, she never once let me touch her. Not a single kiss. Not a single moment of intimacy. No words of love. No hugs. Not even a hand held. Even sleep wasn't shared in the same room. I slept in the living room, while Emily's bedroom was a forbidden zone. She didn't lock the door, but I knew if I stepped inside, the consequences would come immediately. I remember vividly that night 2 years ago, after a company party. I'd had a bit too much to drink and came home in a daze. Without thinking, I stumbled into Emily's room. Before I could even turn on the light, something heavy flew toward my face. A solid glass bedside lamp. It didn't hit my head, but my left arm was bruised for weeks. Emily shouted, "What the hell do you think you're doing? You drunk, get out of my room." I just silently retreated, standing in the dark, blood trickling from a scratch on my arm, and let out a bitter laugh. 7 years, and she still looked at me like I was some vile stranger. Emily wasn't a bad person. At least, I didn't think so before. She was cold, proud, always keeping her distance, but I believed it was just because she needed time. She'd been through a broken relationship. Few people knew, but I'd heard that before marrying me, she'd been deeply in love with a man named Jason Miller, who now lives in Europe. She never mentioned his name, but I could feel it. Every time her gaze drifted out the window, my heart ached for no reason. And yet, I still waited. I thought, if I was sincere enough, patient enough, kind enough, sooner or later, Emily would open up. But now I'm starting to doubt everything. Last night, my friend, Daniel, said over drinks, "What the hell are you waiting for, Ethan? This isn't some dreamy youth anymore. You married a wife, not adopted a stone statue. If she loved you, she wouldn't have made you wait all these years like a fool." I gave a faint smile, raised my glass, pretending to be tough. But deep down, I knew. Daniel was right. That night, after getting home, I stood outside Emily's door for a long time. The lights weren't on inside, but I heard faint sounds. The rustle of pages turning, the soft clink of a glass on the wooden table. She was probably still awake. I hesitated for a few seconds, then knocked. No answer. I knocked again, a bit harder. Still silence. I sighed, my hand resting on the doorknob. I didn't want to barge in, but if I didn't speak tonight, I was afraid I'd lose my mind. Just as I turned the knob, the door swung open. She was already standing there in a long, ash-gray nightgown, hair neatly tied back, her eyes like cold blades piercing through me. "What are you doing?" Her voice was like a frigid gust blowing through a winter hallway. I swallowed hard. "Em, can you listen to me for a few minutes?" "No." The door was about to close when I stuck my hand out to stop it. "Just 5 minutes, please." Emily's eyes flashed with deep irritation. She stepped back, not exactly inviting me in, but not kicking me out either. I walked inside. The room was as it always was when I'd peeked in. Neat, cold, with no trace of anyone actually living there. No picture frames, no vases of flowers, not even a novel on the nightstand. It was like a model room in a high-end hotel. I stood in the middle of the room, not daring to sit. "I want to ask you, are we still husband and wife?" Emily crossed her arms over her chest. "That's a ridiculous question. Number. It's a real question. One I've been holding back for 7 years. She didn't answer. Her gaze was indifferent, like she was looking at an uninvited guest. I continued. "You've never let me touch you, not once. We sleep in separate rooms. You never hold my hand in front of others. You don't let me hug you. Even when I get close, you shrink back like it's an insult." Emily stayed silent. "I waited for you. 7 years. I thought maybe you needed time. You said that once, that you weren't ready. I respected that. But now I want to know, are you not ready? Or have you never loved me? Emily lifted her head, looking straight into my eyes for the first time. You don't have the right to ask that. Her answer was like a slap. I laughed, the pain too much to hide anymore. So I'm just a shield, a replacement, right? She didn't respond. But the way she turned her face away, silent, it was the clearest answer of all. I stepped back toward the door. Before leaving, I said, if you really want to keep your distance, then from now on, I won't try anymore. I returned to the living room. That night, I didn't sleep. I smoked, though I'd quit long ago. The streetlights cast long streaks of light across the floor through the window. In my mind, Emily's image kept replaying. A woman I loved, but who probably never loved me. The next morning, I woke up early. I made breakfast. Oatmeal with cinnamon and apples, a dish Emily once said was edible on one of the rare mornings we sat down together. I even ordered milk tea from her favorite shop and set it all on the table like a weary habit. She didn't come out of her room. No thank you. Not even a text. By late morning, I got a short message. Bring the milk tea to Heather's salon. Get two. Bring it for me and her. I stared at the text, my heart sinking. But I still got up, changed, and went out. I went to that nail salon in Soho where Emily often hung out. Glass doors gleamed, staff wore black uniforms, soft jazz played inside. I walked in with two milk teas. The doorbell chimed. Emily was sitting in a secluded corner at the back of the salon with her best friend, Heather, whom I still called Little Fish, like Emily did. They were getting manicures and chatting. Before I could approach, I suddenly heard Heather exclaim, "Wait, you said last night Ethan got drunk, came into your room, and you threw the lamp right at his head? God, Emily, you're insane," Emily replied in an annoyed tone. "He doesn't deserve to touch me, Heather. Even if he's my husband." I stood frozen. My hands holding the cups trembled, my lips dry. Heather hesitated. "But you've still never... with him?" That question made everything seem to freeze. I held my breath, waiting for the answer. In my mind, I still hoped for something kinder than reality. But Emily replied, her voice ice cold. "I want to save my first time for Jason. Even if he's my legal husband, Ethan isn't that person." Jason. The name nearly made me collapse. Her ex. Her first love. The one I thought had faded into oblivion. She was still waiting for him? After 7 years? After all the time I'd waited, hoped, endured? I didn't hear anything else. All the sounds in the salon seemed to shatter. I turned around, walked out, the milk tea slipping from my hands and splashing onto the sidewalk. I went home, slammed the door, collapsed into a chair. I'd never felt so pathetic. Me, Ethan Carter, who once stood at the peak of success, who was once the pride of the Carter family before everything fell apart, now reduced to a stand-in in my own marriage. She didn't let me touch her, not because of fear, not because of a painful past, but because she wanted to save herself entirely for someone else. I looked in the mirror. A haggard face, empty eyes. "That's enough," I whispered. "I've paid my dues. It's time to set myself free." That night, Emily came home late. When she walked in, I was sitting alone in the living room, the dim yellow light casting shadows on my weary face. She walked past me, as always, without a word. I watched her back, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel pain anymore, just emptiness. "Emily," I called. She stopped, didn't turn around. "I want a divorce." The room fell deathly silent. Then she slowly turned, her eyes stunned. "What did you say?" I stood up, stepped a little closer, but still kept my distance. "We've lived like strangers for 7 years. You don't love me. I'm too tired to keep waiting for something that'll never come, so I think it's time to end it." Emily stared at me. After a moment, she gave a faint laugh. "Because you heard what I said to Heather? That's why you want a divorce?" "No, not just because of that," I replied, "but because I've realized I'm just a shadow replacing someone else in your life, and I don't want to do that anymore." Emily went quiet for a few seconds. Then she suddenly strode quickly to the kitchen. I thought she'd avoid it or stay silent like always. But this time, the rustling sound from the kitchen sent a chill down my spine. I turned my head, and she was walking out with a fruit knife in her hand. "Emily, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice lowering. She didn't say anything, just stood facing me, her eyes icy, her hand gripping the knife tightly. I didn't move, trying to stay calm. "Do you think any woman would willingly accept being abandoned?" she asked, her voice trembling but still sharp as a blade. "We were never really husband and wife, Emily. But the marriage certificate still exists, and I'm still your wife." Her eyes were red. I looked at her, sighed. "You think of Jason, but you're angry when I want to let go. What do you want from me?" "You've got someone else, haven't you?" she nearly shouted. "There's someone out there." I gave a faint smile. "Funny. You're the one who's been saving yourself for another man for 7 years. And me, the one who's lived like a ghost beside you, gets asked if I'm cheating?" Emily gripped the knife tighter. The blade trembled slightly in her hand. "Emily, you're making yourself look ugly," I said, not afraid, just pitying her. Finally, she burst into tears. The knife clattered coldly onto the stone floor. I stepped forward, picked up the knife, and carefully placed it on the kitchen counter. "Tomorrow, I'll meet with a lawyer. If you need anything, I'm ready to sign any terms. I don't want to take anything from the Hill family." Emily sank to the floor, clutching her head, not saying a word. I turned away, didn't look back. The next day, I took a day off work. It had been a while since I gave myself a break. No work calls, no emails from the boss, no endless meetings, just I needed silence to do something important. Reclaim my freedom. I started packing my things. Though I'd lived with Emily for 7 years, this apartment didn't bear much of my mark. The wardrobe was hers. The kitchen was hers, though she hardly ever used it. Even in the bathroom, my toothbrush was the only thing reminding me I existed in this house. I packed my stuff into a modestly sized suitcase. The household registry, the marriage certificate, I searched but couldn't find them. She'd hidden them somewhere. I texted her. No reply. Called. No answer. All day I kept waiting, but there was no sign she'd come back. Until my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. A photo. Emily and a man, Jason, walking into the lobby of a five-star hotel in Midtown. Her face bore a gentle smile, her eyes tender in a way I'd never seen, directed at me. They walked close together, very close. She rested her hand on his elbow naturally, an intimate gesture that stung. No caption, no explanation. I just knew I was trembling with rage. My whole body felt like it was being squeezed, suffocating. I sank into the chair, gripping the phone until my knuckles turned white. She really did this? Not waiting for me to sign the divorce papers, not bothering to keep up the bare minimum of appearances. Running off to her ex, the one she saved herself for 7 years, to check into a hotel with him like I never existed? My heart throbbed, as if stabbed by 1,000 tiny needles. I hated myself for still hoping. I'd thought at least she was decent, even if she didn't love me. But now, I only felt disgust. That night, Emily came home past 11 p.m. The scent of unfamiliar perfume lingered. She turned on the light, startled to see me sitting on the sofa, silent as a statue. She froze, then said lightly, "Why didn't you turn on the lights? What are you doing sitting in the dark?" I looked at her, my gaze cold. "Tomorrow, come with me to the courthouse to file the papers. I'm not waiting anymore." Emily stiffened. "I told you I don't agree to a divorce." I stood up, tossed the phone onto the table, the screen still showing that photo. She glanced at it, her face instantly paling. "Don't say it's been edited," I sneered. "Or that you two just rented a room to discuss existential philosophy." Emily stayed silent, her lips pressed tight. "I've been quiet long enough, but if you want me to show this photo to the whole Hill family, go ahead and keep denying it." She stepped closer, trying to grab my hand. "It's not what you think, Ethan. Me and Jason, we just rented a private room." I cut her off, my voice sharp as a blade. "Just rested a bit in a hotel? Emily, do you think I'm that stupid?" She suddenly trembled, her eyes red. "Ethan, if you leave, I won't survive." I paused for a second, but then sighed. You've survived 7 years without love. I believe you'll keep going just fine. I walked into the room, shut the door. That night, neither of us slept. The next morning, I left the apartment early. I went to the Hills house, Emily's parents, in the Upper East Side, bringing simple gifts: organic green tea for Mr. Hill and imported chocolates for Mrs. Hill. No matter the current situation, I still wanted to maintain a shred of respect for the people who'd supported me when I had nothing. Mrs. Hill opened the door, her face bright as always. "Ethan, how do you have time to visit today? You're usually so busy." I forced a smile. "I took a day off today. I have something to talk to you and Dad about." Mrs. Hill cheerfully invited me in, oblivious that the story I brought today would cut deep into their hearts. While she prepared tea in the kitchen, I sat on the spacious, sunlit living room sofa, facing Emily's father, Mr. Thomas Hill, a dignified man with sharp eyes that seemed to see through people. "What's going on, Ethan?" he asked after some small talk. I sat up straight, my gaze serious. "I want to divorce Emily." The moment the words left my mouth, the room seemed to freeze. Mr. Hill blinked for a few seconds, then slowly set his teacup down. Mrs. Hill stepped out from the kitchen, standing still in shock. "Say that again?" Mr. Hill looked at me, his voice dropping. "I'm sorry. Emily and I have lived together for 7 years, but we've never truly been husband and wife. We sleep in separate rooms. There's no intimacy, no affection, and recently, I found out Emily's still in contact with Jason." Mrs. Hill covered her mouth, stunned. Mr. Hill just stayed silent. He sat there for a long time, then said quietly, "Do you love her, Ethan?" The question made me pause. I used to love her. A lot. But love is like a candle slowly snuffed out by years of cold treatment. Now, I wasn't sure what was left in my heart besides a vast emptiness. I did once, but now it's not enough to keep enduring. Mr. Hill nodded slowly. "If that's the case, I understand." Right then, Emily walked into the house. No one knew why she showed up at that moment. She was dressed neatly, her face lightly but sharply made up, carrying a bag of documents. She glanced at me, then turned to her parents. "He came to tell you about the divorce, didn't he?" Mr. Hill's voice was low. "Emily, is it true? You're still in touch with Jason?" Emily didn't deny it. She stared at me, then suddenly threw the bag of documents onto the table. "Here's the paperwork. I've signed it. You want a divorce, so let's do it now." I was slightly taken aback, not expecting her to be so proactive. But Emily's tone held no remorse or sadness. Instead, it was cold, arrogant, as if saying, "You think you're the one leaving me?" "No, Ethan. I'm the one ending this game." I looked at her, no longer angry, just pitying. "Thank you. At least this time, you're not pretending." Mrs. Hill looked at her daughter, her face bewildered. "Emily, do you love Jason that much?" Emily didn't answer. She quickly walked out of the house, not bothering to look back. I bowed deeply to my in-laws, perhaps for the last time. "Thank you both for everything you've done for me. Even if Emily and I can't continue, I'll always be grateful for your kindness." Mr. Hill patted my shoulder lightly, his voice low. "You're a good man, Ethan. Maybe it's not you who's wrong, but fate that's been too unfair." I returned to the apartment in the late afternoon, my heart lighter but emptier than ever. I thought, at least this time everything was clear. The divorce papers were ready. Emily wasn't pretending anymore. It was all like a chess game finally falling into place. I'd leave, she'd go back to Jason, I'd start over. I packed the rest of my clothes, neatly fitting them into the one small suitcase I'd take with me. As I dragged the suitcase to the door preparing to leave, Emily suddenly blocked my path. She stood there, her eyes complex, her hands trembling. "You're really leaving?" Her voice was choked. I nodded. "We're not divorced yet. You leaving like this? What does it mean?" "It doesn't matter anymore. I'm no longer bound by this fake affection. Where I go, how I live, you don't need to care anymore." She bit her lower lip, then suddenly raised her hands, unbuttoning her blouse. I froze. One by one, the buttons came undone. Patches of pale skin revealed under the warm yellow light. This, isn't this what you've always wanted? She whispered. I'll give it to you. I'll give you everything. She stood there, down to her bra, her eyes flickering with both pride and fragility. I looked at her for a long time. My heart didn't ache like it used to. All that remained was a cold void. Emily, I said quietly, are you doing this because you're afraid I'll leave or because you really want to stay? She didn't answer. I shook my head. It's too late. I turned, pulled the suitcase past her shoulder. She sank down, clutching her knees and crying like a child. I didn't stop anymore. After leaving the apartment, I rented a temporary hotel room. For the first few days, I did nothing, just slept, ate instant noodles, read the paper, and occasionally opened my phone to look at old photos in the gallery. There wasn't a single intimate picture of me and Emily. I wasn't sad. I just realized I'd been so alone all this time and still deluded myself into thinking I was in love. On the 5th day, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up. Ethan Carter? Yes? We're the law firm representing Ms. Emily Hill. Please come to this address to sign the asset division and divorce paperwork. As soon as possible, I wrote down the address. It was an old building near an abandoned factory area in Brooklyn. A bad feeling crept in, but I went anyway. When I arrived, the old factory was empty. No signs, no people. I tried calling back. No one answered. Suddenly, there were footsteps behind me. Before I could turn, a hard blow to the back of my neck knocked me out. When I came to, I was tied up, lying on a cold cement floor, next to another tied-up man, Jason. I struggled to lift my head, asking hoarsely, "What the hell is going on?" Jason didn't say anything. He was awake, his eyes still, eerily calm. I understood immediately. He'd staged this kidnapping himself. I laughed despite the splitting pain in my head. "You want to test Emily, don't you? To see who she'll choose?" Jason glanced at me, not denying it. He just muttered, "I have to know who she loves." I spat out blood, smirking. "You don't need this circus. She'll choose you." "I lost a long time ago." Jason stayed silent. About half an hour later, Emily appeared, dragging a suitcase. She saw both me and Jason, and her eyes went straight to me. She ran over, shouting, "Ethan!" Jason stiffened. I was stunned too. "Who are you choosing?" Jason asked, his voice breaking. Emily turned to him. "I choose Ethan." "You are just someone from the past." Jason roared, screaming like a wounded animal. He jerked up, broke free, grabbed a nearby iron bar, and started beating me relentlessly. Emily screamed, rushing to stop him, but he shoved her, sending her tumbling to the ground. Before I blacked out, I only heard Emily sobbing. "Don't. He doesn't deserve this." When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Trevu, my best friend, was there. He said gently, "You were badly injured. The police found you in the abandoned factory. Jason's been arrested." I rasped. "Emily?" "She was locked up separately. They found her thanks to the tracker in her phone. She's still alive." I sighed in relief. My eyes stung. A doctor came in, whispering to Trevu. I caught fragments. "Ethan's condition is serious. Nerve damage. High chance of a long-term coma." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. But I heard everything clearly. The next day, Emily visited me. She held my hand, whispering, "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was so stupid. I love you. When you left, I realized, losing you, I couldn't live." Her tears fell onto my hand. Each drop felt like it made my heart beat again. I wanted to hold her hand, but I couldn't move. 2 weeks later, my fingers twitched. The room erupted in cheers. Emily burst into tears, rushing to hug me. Trevu sighed in relief. Emily's parents embraced, choking up. I came back. My body was still weak, but I was alive. Emily didn't leave my side for a moment. She patiently cared for me through 3 months of rehabilitation. She didn't say much, just acted. Meals, wiping me down, physical therapy, taking me to the park every afternoon. She had truly changed. A year later, I'd recovered, gone back to work, and was living in a new apartment in Greenwich Village. Emily still came to pick me up every afternoon after work. She always brought a bouquet of flowers, always stood waiting for me at the building's entrance, always smiled gently as long as I'd walk toward her, the world would be whole again. One afternoon, as I stepped out of the office, she ran up, handing me a bunch of purple flowers. "Ethan, can you give me another chance?" I looked at her for a long time, then smiled, nodded. "I'll give you a chance.